Greetings and welcome to Office Hours with Dr. G. I'm your host, Dr. G, and I'm so glad that you could keep tonight's appointment. My guest tonight was raised Catholic, but at age 13, Sadhu Oddiyah L started his journey to God realization. After receiving confirmation, he joined the 5% Nation of Islam. After leaving, he found a spiritual teacher that practiced mystical Kabbalah. From there, he studied Hinduism and a Japanese system called Tsukaya Mayukari. He was later initiated in the Congo system of Palo Mayombe, as well as 21 division Sanse Dominican Voodoo, Santeria, and more. Brother Sadhu is a light healer, a massage therapist, and a spiritual tattoo artist. He performs divination with water cups, mirrors, coffee cups, and crystal bowls. He reads auras and performs cleansing healings. In addition, Sadhu is an astrologer, a numerologist, shaman, and a medium who performs candle magic and more. Help me welcome to Office Hours with Dr. G, Brother Sadhu Oddiyah L. Welcome. How you doing? So, as is custom, when the music, if your bio's not long enough for the music to run out, you have to rock with me a little bit. How are you?
I am fabulous. I feel very honored to be here, to sit here and talk with someone so great.
Well, this music is kind of loud, so we'll give it a few minutes to play out, and yeah, there you go.
It's cool, It's like you're dealing with poetry, rhymes, and meditation, speaking to the linguist,
yeah,
your third gland, rhymes from the head, going to the heavens, down to the earth. Speaking to my family, my friends, my Moorish, my sisters, my brothers, salutations of the goddess.
We're going to start this off as soon as this Dr. G theme song goes off. I'm going to just, in honor of having such a austere spiritualist on board today in the office, we're going to give out a singing bowl chime. Are you ready?
Yes.
Receive it.
Salutation, light. Wow.
I hope you all receive that.
Yes.
I get a chance tonight to show you guys my other side because I have a guest who is so amazing in the fact that you are so multidisciplined when it comes to spirituality and the various modalities that you have ventured into. I'm not even going to say dabbled, because you've actually apparently at the tender age of 42, you have mastered quite a few practices and modalities. And a lot of times, it's interesting because you were raised as a Catholic. So
yes,
let's tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got from, altar boy or something like that, or whatever you were, acolyte, to mystic shaman.
Sure. Growing up in a house where my mother was a Catholic and my father was a Catholic as well, until I got older and I realized that my father was a Freemason, a lodge guy, My parents took me to, Catholic, and I started off receiving what they call the first communion. They have the different steps, and towards the end, you get what's called confirmation, where you confirm your faith. But all of these things was done because, your parents told you to do these things. So I was always in my search of God, praying, meditating, trying my best to pray and see things happen. And as I got older and older, I started realizing as I prayed, I wasn't getting nothing. I wasn't getting what I was looking for. It's like to pray, sit there to pray, and on a scale of 1 to 10, you get a 3 out of your meditation. It was like, So I moved on, went to hang out with my friends who was introduced me to what's called the 5% Nation of Gods on Earth, where they believe and preach that the black man is God, the woman is considered to be a moon because of her cycling system, and she becomes an earth once she gives birth to a child. So that was that system from there. And it took me a long way. It taught me a lot of different things. And as I went on, I moved on, and I found a teacher who started teaching me what is called mystical Kabbalah. This guy, he was from Trinidad, and he knew his stuff. The stuff I seen him do was paramount. And what really stole me, because I was very much in the 5% Nation of God on Earth. They always say, if I don't see it, it don't exist. You always got to show and prove something. That's what they believe in, show and prove. So that was me. My friends like, yeah, my grandfather does this. Took me to one of his banquet tables that he would hold every year as a spiritual offering to whichever forces or spirits that he dealt with. To see someone who gets possessed by a force, knows nothing about you, not a single thing about you, and is telling you all about yourself, stuff that you know you didn't even tell your friends. Hey, you got me there. Now you got my attention. Now I know, oh, is there something else going on here? And that was the doorway for me that let me say to myself, like, okay, there has to be something more than what I'm being taught here. So I was open-minded, and I started to venture into different practices. Because as I got older, the one thing that I learned too with some of these teachers is some of these teachers are very dark. They present themselves to you as, I'm helpful, I'm this and I'm that. And as you get to know them and you watch every move, you pay attention, you see there's something else going on here. So after that, I ended up leaving him after our little squirrels, after many years of being with him, and then I went into Hinduism. Hinduism was the one thing that, of all that I practiced, that up to this day, I like it more than everything else. I really do, because it gave me peace. You hear me, right?
I hear you.
Yeah, it gave me peace. It gave me peace because I went through a lot in life growing up as a child, and I could have turned out a wrong way in life. I really could have went sideways, hanging out in the streets of East New York, Brownsville, with, all the guys who do what they do, and meditation helped me to control my anger, to calm my nerves, learn how to center myself. Does it work all the time? Sometimes, no. You're human. You have ways and actions that you've done all your life. And I had to learn how to control myself. Because in reality, when I was younger, I went to jail for something that I didn't do, through racism. And as I'm sitting in jail, to me, even though it happened like that, it taught me something. It taught me something very valuable, to see how many people, it don't matter, different complexions. As a Moor, I don't like to use color codes. So I would say melanated people, or the people that are labeled as black, and the Caucasian people who are labeled as white. Seen both of them in jail and watch their mannerisms, watch how they sit there, how they think, and how they want to live their life. And I said, you know what? Even in that situation, and it hurted me, and I had to do things in there just to survive, in Rikers Island and everything like that. But I sat there and I thought to myself, I said, you know what? It's not worth it. It's not worth ever. Even some people sit there and say they would kill a man and do this and that, and sitting in there, I had God realization to say to myself, even if something was to happen in the street, I have to walk away. Because I'm not going to live my life taking a shower with a bunch of men, butt naked with a bunch of men. Someone will tell me when to eat. And then I got to worry about other stuff here that, people who are ignorant and who are not educated, and they just know what they know, and that's it. It's not their, in some sort of way, it's not their fault, but I have to think about myself and where I'm going in life. And that, for me, that experience of being locked up, said to myself, I must take a different turn in life.
Wow.
So
how much time did you spend at Rikers Island?
Rikers Island, I did 6 months and 5 years probation. But that was my second time, being locked up, because the first time I was a juvenile. I was, I think, 13. Yeah, I think, 13 years old. And during that 13-year-old period, I went for a year and change upstate to a place called DFI, Tryon, and it was harsh. It was a very harsh thing to go through. But, like I said, life gives you its ups and downs, and you eat it, you learn from it, or you let it break you. I chose not to let any of these experiences break me or destroy me. I learned from it, and I moved on into a spiritual venture.
So at age 13, according to your bio, that was when you started on your journey, as you called it, to God realization. Yeah. So did you start to go within while you were in that situation? Because those of us who practice spirituality or those modalities realize where God is, and it's an inside job. So that at the age of 13, which for I think a lot of young men is sort of like that rites of passage time, that time when you're making the transition from child to moving into more of what's considered ceremonially an adult, going into that next level. So that's when you chose to seek realize God. And what did you do?
Well, this is going to sound a little bit crazy, but the first thing I started to do, which sounds crazy, was talking to myself. Even though I was talking to myself, I would always see an image, whether the image was on the wall, and you had the dark images and you had the light images. So I always realized when it was a light being talking and when it was a dark being talking. And 9 out of 10 times what I realized was a lot of the dark beings or energies that people would consider to say, oh, these are demons, or these are what they call Gotia. They were actually ancestor spirits. So the ancestor spirits would communicate and talk. But when I was young at that time, I was afraid. I was scared because I'm like, what the hell is this? Or, oh my God, it's a monster or whatever. And it really made me comfortable. It took me a long time. As a matter of fact, it took me until I started getting into Hinduism to be able to face those entities that kept coming around and speaking to me. Because as a young child, let me see it. When I came back and I was hanging out with my friends, every time we went somewhere, my friends used to always look and say, yo, what's the matter with you? Are you okay? But it was like watching that movie, The Exorcism of Emily Rose. There's a movie called The Exorcism of Emily Rose. Some of the stuff I saw in that movie, that thing was so real to me. To walk and see people's face, they would just change in front of you. I would just sit there and be like, oh my God, what is this? Oh my God, what is this? And I couldn't tell anybody, like, yo, this is what I'm seeing. They'd be like, you should get a straight jacket. So I had to sit there and eat it and sit by myself sometimes, just feeling crazy. But until I got into Hinduism was where, well, not even Hinduism. Hinduism gave me more clarity and understanding, but the Kabbalah, when I learned from my grandfather, the Kabbalah, that's the part that really had me like, whoa, because he was on the dark side. He
Your grandfather,
in the Bible.
Was he a Mason?
Yeah.
Okay.
He was in almost so many orders, it wasn't funny. Because a lot of people, when they always think about orders, the first thing that comes to their mind is Masonry. But Masonry is just one of many other sections of orders that's out there. There's one called the Foresters, the Elks, the Knights of Columbus, and it goes on and on and on. There's so many of them. But he was into a few of them. But like I said, as a spiritual person, they called him Grand Master. I watch people come and visit him and bow at his feet. Because he used to do stuff like, there was one lady I knew, her daughter was very ill. She came all the way from London. The mother came because she knew him, and she told him what happened to her daughter. So he performed a ritual sacrifice for the daughter, and he brought her back from the dead. Because when they had her in the hospital, she was only living from the machine. And they told her mother, you're going to have to pull the plug because she's done, she's finished. So she said, give me some time to think about this. She called him, came to New York to see him. He did what he had to do for her, and once she got back to London where she lived at, and she went to the hospital, the daughter was up. She was I said, what's the word when she was cognizant of everything all around her, and the doctors could not explain it. They didn't know what happened. All they knew is that she was fine, and before you know it, she had another week. They sent her home. So when she came, this is the story they tell me about. When she came, she kept on having these nosebleeds, and she was a very gorgeous woman. So I'm looking at her like, "Oh, who's that? Can I get to know her?" And they looked at me and said, "Mm-mm." I'm like, "What?" They said, "She just came back from the dead, so yeah, leave her alone." I'm like, "Came back from the dead?" I'm like, "Okay," because during that time I wasn't even that much knowledgeable to understand that. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. So it seems like that your journey into spirituality is based on a ancestral lineage of practices. I mean, you said your grandfather was more practiced dark arts, but I guess he also did some light work too. Would you say that you have inherited? Would you repeat that?
He was my adopted grandfather.
Oh, okay. So he wasn't biological. Okay, wasn't blood. Okay, all right.
No, he wasn't. He studied the book they call the Lesser Key of Solomon.
You told me about
that. What they call Lucifer and the 72 evil spirits. That was what he dealt with. So in the beginning for him, he used that to do good things. But knowledge and wisdom, he didn't realize that these are dark forces. Their nature is to do what they do. But he just followed, just like most people, you just follow what somebody else, because it was a section of them, from what he used to tell me his story. He used to say, back home in Trinidad where he was from, he always hanged out with a group of individuals that practiced the same thing. He went deeper and just took the book of the Key of Solomon and started dealing with them in a more legit way. And he rose to the heights and being known, where a lot of people didn't want to mess with him. Every time some of them tried to mess with him, it didn't come up. And what I mean by that is, in this spiritual world, you have real mediums and you have fake mediums. You have people who really get possessed and do some fabulous miracles. Then you have others who imitate. Because the reason why some of them are imitated because they're ignorant. They don't know anything about spiritualism. So when they see and they want to show, oh yeah, I'm going to do this and this too. So he had a banquet table one day, one of these years, he had a banquet table. And in this table, somebody came there to test him. They came here to test him, and I guess they thought he was a faker like anybody else. So he was manifesting a being, which I'm not going to name the name of the spirit that he was manifesting. And when this person came there starting to imitate him and make fun of him, he just looked at the guy like this and said, "Be gone," and just turned around like that. The person just looked at him, "What?" And he just jumped up, froze up, got up, and he ran out of the place. And while he was running, all you saw was feces and blood coming down his leg.
What was coming from
himself? Whatever the spirit did to him, feces and blood and urine.
Oh my, that's
just got up and he's like, "Oh my God!" He just yelled and he ran.
Oh wow! So that stuff is real. That is it. Yeah, I mean, we know that a lot of things are real, but you know, it was instantaneous. Wow. So this was so you were sort of his protege for a while, or his student, or what were you?
Yes, yeah, I was one of his later on students, because he had many students from around the world. He had many students. And at that time, I was the one that was sticking with him, but I never understood why everybody hated him. I guess maybe I was blind. At my age, I was so amazed and shocked at the things I saw him doing. So I wanted to learn, because I was saying to myself, I need this. Because I'll be damned, today, tomorrow, I have a child, and a doctor says, "Hey, nothing we can do. Your child's gonna go." I'm gonna be like, "Hell no! I know what I gotta do." That was always my thing, to learn spiritualism to help others, to help myself, and that was my forte. And I had another experience behind that made me, how you say, it made me take spiritualism more seriously. Right before I ended up leaving my adopted grandfather, grandmaster, right before I left him, I was studying a book he gave me. The book was called Chakras.
Shacklers.
So when he told me, no, chakra, like chakra, the center, chakras.
Oh, chakras. Okay. Chakras.
Chakra. Right. So he gave me this book, and I used to look at it and, oh, can I hold it? And he used to be so angry when I asked him that. He said, let me tell you something. When you buy a spiritual book for yourself, he says, never lend your spiritual books. He said, you can buy one for somebody, or if you know very well, you're going to give them that book, just say, give it to them. Don't ever lend your spiritual books and take them back, because there are people out there who are so evil, they'll do something to your book and give it back to you and drive you crazy. The spiritual world is beautiful because I seen the good, I seen the bad, and I seen the ugly. The ugly is so horrible that I just look at people who come into this dabbling and trying stuff, and I say, wow, you're really playing with your life. I've seen so much that when people start to pelt me what they call evil eye or black magic, I wait before I send back that hit. I would take that hit and just sit there and wait and see how far that person's going to go. Because I know the reaction of when you do something, how dangerous it is. It's very dangerous in the spiritual world. You know? And that's why I wanted to have this segment as well, because there are many people out here, like especially to my brothers out there, all the Moors and the females out there who I know or who are more spiritually in tuned, and most of the Moors out there. In my experience talking to a lot of Moors, not all, but a lot of them, like they're very dismissive of the spiritual aspect of spiritualism. They're more into the law aspect. Fine, it's fine and dandy. It's okay to be into that, but I feel that you need both of them together. You gotta call on your ancestors before you do anything. You gotta call on them, because without them, you're not going nowhere. You're going but so far. And that's why I always give a
where, in fact, I heard or saw it. But I remember something that I was looking at. A sister was on YouTube, and now I know what it was. The sister was doing something on YouTube, and she's actually talking about the spirits. The fact that they called it spirits when it came to alcohol was because it was basically a possession, that there would be entities that would possess the one who imbibed, if you will, on the spirits. And a lot of times people would act unseemly. People would have a whole different, I know people who don't know what they did the night before because of the spirits. You know what I mean? It's like something when you talk about possession, possession, many people who drink a lot and drink heavily actually are possessed, and the next day, they may become nasty, evil, crazy people, and then the next day they're back to their normal self. Like, what do you mean? What happened? They don't even remember, because the spirit took over. Am I right?
Yes, you're right. You're absolutely, you're 110% correct. 110% correct. And that's for a spiritual person, let's say, like, for example, people who do go through possession of different deities, whether it's something with Hindu deities, Haitian voodoo deities, Greek deities, Egyptian deities, it doesn't matter. But let's say you contact a deity that likes to smoke cigars and he likes to drink, right? Once you got a contact with and he works, and he works well with you, like, make sure he helps you get your money, your bill, everything is good with this entity. What a lot of mediums make the mistake is to drink just like the spirit does. That's the worst thing you can do, because if you're a drinker and he's a drinker, that's your body, your temple's being damaged. Your temple's being, and this is the thing that a lot of spiritual, some of them don't know. Some do know, some don't know. That it will make you into a drug addict. You have some entities, they love marijuana. They love heavy smoking and drugs and stuff like that. They love it. So here it is, you got an entity that likes to smoke marijuana, and then you know yourself, you're a heavy smoker. That's not gonna work well. That's not gonna work well. As a medium, you have to learn that once you're going to these manifestations a lot, every so often, every 3 months to 6 months, you have to do what's called a cleanse to remove the toxins and some of the poisons these entities leave on you. Because you got to think about it. If some entity's coming from some next, what do they call that? A different realm. I say realm, meaning a different planetary galaxy. So let's say one comes from Orion's belt. All right, Orion's belt. You know, Orion's belt's way over there. We here on planet Earth in a different solar system. That being, you gotta learn. You gotta learn how to, when you contact this being, how to find out what kind of being he is. What does he deal with? What does he like? Because there was one time my grandfather manifested this one entity. It was a new, you know, everybody was uneasy because the way this entity was. And the one thing that this entity found amazing was strike match. So he had people in the whole time like, dude, he was very intrigued at watching a match strike. So when the ceremony was done, and they told him what happened during the possession, he looked at everybody funny and said, "What did the spirit do?" He said, "Yeah." He kept on asking us to strike the match. He found it very interesting. He said, "I'm not gonna deal with him again. I have to send him away." And we're like, "Why?" Because if he find that interesting, one day I could be in the house, my whole house would burn down on fire because he just liked playing with fire. He's unaware on the physical plane over here that this can hurt somebody. This can hurt a physical being. For him now, in the spiritual realm, he could walk through fire, play on fire, all this and that. And I'm gonna manifest you on my sleep, and you're gonna do all kind of stuff. And I'm probably either roast tomatoes or something, or I'm gonna be in a mental home. So he had to dismiss him. So
Wow.
some people don't realize that. Like, you get an entity. Yes.
Now, you are. I read a book about a gentleman that's a shaman, and he talked about possession. And I've used this. I think I've said this before on other shows. He talked about a gentleman who was whose father had passed, and he after his father passed, he was a businessman. He started smoking, drinking heavily, started doing a lot of stuff that he had never done. And he was going down to the point where he was about to lose his business. And I guess he reached out to this shaman who's in South America to get assistance because it just got so, unbearable. Turns out that his father had the spirit of his father when he crossed over, or when he transitioned, didn't really transition, but had attached to his son. And so when his father felt like the drinking that his father did, now his father was doing it through his son. The smoking, the erratic behavior was actually his father. So they had to perform a ceremony to cut to actually, how we have to do when we're doing Reiki, we have to cut cords. Sometimes I'm every now and then I might forget, but we have to go in and we have to do cord cutting, because a lot of times people are dealing with attachments, and some of those attachments may be spiritual. And a lot of times family members stay around and they attach themselves to loved ones because they want to be, that's how they feel. That's how they experience this realm, by staying with them. Have you ever had instances where you had to deal with, say, entities that were attached to loved ones that they should have gone on, but they didn't, or or their behavior changed, or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, I've experienced it before with my grandfather. First, when I was young and I didn't have the knowledge of it, there was a case that they had where I think the child was 5 years old, and they were like, "Oh my God, he got him." And they're like, "What makes you say that?" They said, "Because they came and found him sitting down, and he was drinking a whole bottle of vodka straight to the head. A 5-year-old. He's on, and like, what? He just, and was fine. Like, sitting there, like, what? You gonna stop me? So they got scared. They called the priest. The priest walked in and threw the holy water and ran back outside the building. He didn't want nothing to do with that. He ran away from that. So they contacted my grandfather about that, and that thing gave hell. They had to hold him down, keep him down, and perform an exorcism. And when the exorcism was done, they captured the spirit in the bottle.
Like a jinn.
Like it was back to normal.
Oh wow! Like that, that's what they say about the genies or the jinn that they capped them in about. I have a great nephew, and I have a few great nephews, but one in particular, he's in his 20s now. But when he was, say, 4, 5, or something like that, same. There's an age, when they, sometimes when they, even if they display some other older, if you will, behavior early on, by the time they get to 7 or 8 or more, 9, sometimes they forget the things they said. But I know he was under 7, and he, I used to be a pastor, and he would tell his mom he didn't want to go to church. He said, I don't want to go to church. I didn't like going to church when I was married before. I mean, he was serious. He was talking about before. I didn't like going to church when I was here the last time. And I was talking to his crazy, and he was giving all of these, what he, back then he didn't want to go, and he was talking about what he used to do and what he didn't like. I talked to him just before this COVID thing broke out. He stopped by in March to see me, and he's grown up now as a father of his own. But he was telling me that, well, what I didn't know is that his grandfather, who his grandfather was on his maternal grandfather, right? His maternal great-grandfather, not grandfather, great-grandfather, was a prominent person here in our town. And I never realized until he was telling me, maybe it's his grandfather, not his great-grandfather. It's his paternal grandfather, this prominent longshoreman here. And it come when he told me who, he said, "Don't I remind you of?" And then I realized that he had already transitioned when my nephew was born. And the likelihood is that he, at least at the beginning parts of his formative years, he remembered things that, probably really were the things that his grandfather did, who he did not know. He did not know him, but he talked about when he was under 7 when he was talking about these things. And he talked about the things that he used to do and didn't like to do before, and he talked about when he was married and this and that.
That sounds more to me, I mean, in my opinion, from experience, that sounds more to me like he was manifesting on the kid. It's manifesting.
Perhaps you mean instead of that, not necessarily it's not that he had come back, but that he was just using him to be, I guess, to still be in this dimension. Okay, all right.
Yes, well, he was just using it to communicate.
Well, you're a medium.
They do that sometimes.
Yeah, you're a medium.
Yeah.
So as a medium, yes. You were talking about earlier in life, you would see things and so forth. By the time you got to an age where you and experience where you realize that for some reason you were a portal for, or an attraction for disembodied spirits and so forth, how did you come to realize that you were being, because that's what mediums basically do. They can tell you who's around you. And I know some mediums, are you a trance medium, or can you call upon spirits, or do they just come in and then you just have to allow them to do what they do?
Either or.
Either or.
I do both. I do both.
So
Yes.
if a person was wanted to say talk to, or they wanted to know something, or wanted to know if one of their loved ones was still around them, or they had some unanswered questions, do they come to you for things like that and ask you to see if you can?
Yes, they did. I get that. I do get that a lot. Sometimes, and sometimes it happens in a weird way. For example, right? I started learning about mediumship from my adopted grandfather, right? Like I said, him and we fell off after a time, and I went into Hinduism. But when I went into Hinduism, the guy who was teaching me was a whole different guy, and it was a whole different way of teaching. And in his system, the way he taught me, you end up becoming what's called a spirit slave. And this is what happens with anyone who enters into these different systems. It's like a neophyte or apprentice. You're beginning. So in your beginning stages, you have to put in what's called grunt work. You have to deal with the itty bitty. So I was going back and forth to Trinidad for more than 5 years for my different training. I was back and forth, and it was one time I came back, and the spirit just used me, like, and sometimes I hate when it happens like that, because you unaware when the spirit can use you. So I'm walking on, I think it was 33rd Street, Manhattan, inside the subway, and I was young, very young at the time, and this very fashionable, I'll say, she looked like she could have been Caucasian, or even, what's that word? She could have been Egyptian. She had that mix, like, you have to really try and figure it out, but she had this very furry white coat and walking with all these bags, and I looked at her and I just felt something touched, but I said, "Hey miss, how you doing?" "I'm okay." I said, "You want help with your bags?" And she was like, "Yeah, sure." I'm like, "Oh shit, okay." Helped her out the train, sat her, having a conversation with her, talking with her, and boom, her grandmother came on me. Her grandmother came and was sitting in front of me. I'm looking at her grandmother crying and telling me to tell her this and tell her that. And I'm telling her this whole blah, 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 blah. I don't remember half the things I was telling her. But in my head, while I'm telling her this, I'm going blah, 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 telling her in my head, oh my God, she's going to think I'm crazy. She's going to tell me to get the fuck away from her. I was just, and she just turned around and stared at me and looked at me and started boo crying. Like, thanks so much. I'm glad I met you. Pick up her bags and got for the next stop. I was just like, all my tears just stopped. I'm like, what the hell just happened here? Just like that. And the grandmother was sitting in front of me, she was gone. And that was that. That was one of my first experiences like that.
Wow.
Dealing
so
with an ancestor spirit who was trying to communicate.
So the grandmother sat across from you and next to her and said, basically, tell her this, tell her that. And these were things that she knew.
No, she was sitting next to me, because I carried
next to you.
We were just having a conversation.
Oh.
Yeah, she sat next to me, while in front of me I was seeing the grandmother.
Oh, okay.
In the subway train. So the train, it wasn't so packed. It wasn't that many people, but there was enough people in the train. But she was sitting across from me, and I'm telling her whatever the grandmother told her. Well, and it was bugging, because I never even second guessed it. Actually, why didn't you tell her yourself? I was going, that never crossed my mind. I was just talking to her, and she was like, God. And she walked off the train. She had tears in her eyes, but she was just like, oh my God. Like, I guess it gave her release or peace. And when I looked for the grandmother again, nowhere to be seen.
That was probably more validation for you. It was probably, because you said that was one of the first times that had happened like that.
Oh.
And so a lot of times, and she verified, she didn't look at you.
Yes.
You thought this lady's going to think I'm crazy. And I mean, and I've done that before, too.
Yes.
I mean, not like that, not to that extent. But when I was when I was a pastor, and I would be at the altar, and I would start to tell people stuff. And so in my head, I'd have this conversation like, this is crazy. Do not say this. But my mouth was saying it. And I'm thinking, if there's anything like me, if you ever say anything to me, I had a situation where we were in Virginia, I think it was, at a service, and my husband and I, and the prophet and the prophet, this big time prophet and his wife, they were both in ministry and prophesied to us. And my dog in the background, and so I had started this ministry, and the man prophesied, but he directed everything to my husband. And my husband was like the deacon. He was like, like sort of like the pastor by default. But I was, I don't know if I'd been consecrated at that point, apostle, but I had founded the ministry. I had cried. He was seeing stuff, but he directed it towards him. And so when I didn't want to embarrass them at the altar, so I went back to him afterwards, still at the place, and said, perhaps, just so you'll know, I'm Dr. Gilliam, and I did not try to, but he's just, I didn't want to say he's just the, but it was the truth. And they said, oh no, we didn't miss God. And so he was adamant that that's what God has said. And I'm like, why God gonna lie? I'm standing right here. I know who I am and what I've done, and so I'm the kind of person that from that day forward, it was like, I'm never gonna let somebody lie to me or lie on me in public. By the same token, if I'm speaking to someone, and I'm saying something that's not true, especially publicly, I would hope that that person who's on the receiving end would, actually, rebut what I'm saying if it's not true. And I don't know how many times people do stand up and allow people to speak into their lives things that are not true. And they receive these things. Yes. And then they begin to manifest this stuff because they, by the mere fact that they receive the things. But I would get information about people, and I would be, unbeknownst to them, I'm having this conversation like, I'm not saying that. That doesn't make sense. And so then it stopped coming in my head, and it would just come out of my mouth, because a lot of times, if we get in your head, you can mess with it. You want to reason and you want to figure out, but if it comes straight out your mouth, you know what I mean? So you can't, you hear it when it's coming out and you're going, oh my goodness. And so the people would just be crying and boo-hooing. And I'm thinking, really? You know what I mean? Because it bypassed my brain. Because your own intellect rather wants to figure out, well, this doesn't make sense, so you shouldn't say that, or that couldn't have happened to them, or that couldn't be the situation that they're in, or they're not thinking that way. But the energy of the universe, the powerful energy of the universe, knows exactly what it is we need and how to get like that information to us. So in the case of the young lady, the grandmother had a message, and she could have come right to her, I'm sure, probably would have scared the, what out of her. But the fact that a total stranger was able to say things to her, gave it validation to her that it was a grandmother. And two, it also validated you in your gifting. I mean, the energy, speaking of that, and energy, we met because you contacted me. Please share what you, and this, because this is
before I share it, let me share it to you with the story of what made me go into Hinduism, and it's going to relate to our same conversation.
Okay.
So when my grandfather taught me about the kundalini, I got this book. Oh, you can see it. This book is called The Kundalini and the Chakras. You see it?
Yes. Yes.
So in this book, I was studying this book, and one day, I never knew who the voice was, but the voice says, hey, you need to put what you learn into practice, because you have people that's called armchair theorists, and you have the practitioners. The practitioner stands out over the armchair theorist. The armchair theorist is someone who read the books and just go with their theory. But a practitioner practices a theory and finds out if it's true or false. So in this book I just showed you, it was teaching me about, as you learn already, the palm of the hands and the palm of your feet are electrical conduit sockets. So it says that you can learn, you can transfer energy like that. So by pulling up your kundalini and you shoot the energy through your hands, you can send energy. So I always been saying, maybe one day I'll find out how it works. And the test came. I had a brother, like he was not blood related, but he to me was my brother. And he had a sister that looked just like him. They looked exactly alike. And what happened was they called me and told me how she tried to commit suicide. The day before we were hanging out with her, it was her birthday. I left. Come to find out, she drank a whole bottle of sleeping pills, and she drank a whole bottle of vodka behind it. Whatever happened, she was in the hospital. And I was closer to the hospital because where I live, she was at Brookdale Hospital, and I was like maybe 5 blocks away. I was like 5 blocks away. So I go over there, and when I go there, you can look and see. She's just living off she had tubes and stuff in her. She was just living off the machine. And so I said, okay, what do I do? I said, oh yeah, let me use my hand. I put my hand over her body, and I felt this energy. I felt a presence. It just didn't feel right to me. I didn't know what it was, but it felt negative. I said, oh God, what do I do? And I'm looking at her, like I'm touching her face, and I'm looking at her, and all I could see, because she looked so much like her brother, who I said is my brother. And the thought came to my mind of, oh my God, my brother's dying here. What can I do? And I had tears in my eyes. So I said, oh, wait a minute. The hands is electrical sockets. So I grabbed her hand, hold my heart, and I concentrated to pull my energy up and shoot it through my hands. Didn't know what I was doing. All I know is I went like this, and I shook off like what the hell just happened. And I'm looking at her, one arm move, one leg move, one eye move, and she just started shaking on the bed. And I'm like, oh my God, what's going on? And she goes just like this. And I was like, oh my God, like I didn't know what to do. I was shocked. It was so like, oh my God, I couldn't believe that. Like that was my first real of doing something and watching it happen to somebody. And she came out of it. The next day they moved her to somewhere. Even the doctor, he said, I don't get it. Like she should have been dead. So the next day they moved to a different floor. And as I'm sitting there, I come to see her again. And she was like still trying to come out and open her eyes because the whole time they almost pronounced her dead. Her eyes was open the whole time, like she was just nothing. So the next day the doctor walks in the room, like he's coming in the room, but I'm sitting on the window and I'm praying to God. I'm like, did I really do something or this is in my head? I said, please God, give me a sign. Let me know what I did was real. Like I'm talking to myself. The doctor walks in, picks up her chart, reads her chart, and he curses out loud. He said, what the is this? He's supposed to be dead, and he just throws it in there and walks away. He said she was supposed to be dead. And he just jumped in and walked away. I was like, if that's not confirmation, that's not confirmation. I don't know what else to think from there.
That's also a very odd response for a doctor, a person who's supposed to have taken the Hippocratic oath to heal. Maybe her organs were on the list for maybe they were going to donate her organs or something to harvest her organs or something. And now, they couldn't make all that fiat.
I said, I'm 42. This happened when I was like maybe 21 or 22, if I'm correct. Something around that time. It could have been before that. It could have been maybe a little bit before that. But around that age bracket, it was something around there. And I remember also when I sat with my grandfather later on that day, and he had his other spiritual colleagues of dangerous men. And I was like, as soon as I came back to the grandpa, I don't know what happened. He said, sit the peep down and listen. I'm like, okay. I said, did I do something wrong? He said, not really. I'm like, what happened? He said, you saved her life. I'm like, I did? He said, yeah, you learned what you learned and you saved her life. She was supposed to die. I said, okay. And I left it like that. But later on, he said some things to me that I really would rather tell you. I don't like to really air that part, but that part was like, it was confirmation for me that, she would have died. She would have died. If I didn't do what I did, she would have died. So it was enough. It was enough for me to realize that. So the point of that story is the hands. Hands are very magical, and that's what also attracted me to coming on your show. I was watching the show with brother Dayame and Jalil. Those two great brothers as well, who are very helpful to our fighting for our humanity, fallen nation. It's like Jonah Day, Joey Bounce, Ron March. I'm grateful, very grateful. So you was talking to Dayame and you was saying something about your hands with energy. Now, mind you, I'm not watching the live show. I'm watching the link that Jalil sent me. And while I'm watching it, I'm preparing spiritual beads for people. Yeah, I'm watching the replay while I'm doing some beading. So I had on just a regular tank top. Temperature in my apartment nice, everything's fine. So I'm doing this beading and I'm looking at the video, beading, and while you're talking, I started to get hot. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, man, I said, I didn't drink no whiskey. Why I'm feeling so hot? And I look up again and I'm like, oh shoot, she's pointing about somebody need this, it's gonna be in it. I feel this energy in my hand. Oh man, my hand's so hot. I can have this. And you're going like this, and every time you're doing this, I'm feeling this wave. I'm like, oh my God, I must be too sensitive because this is a replay, and I'm feeling. It was amazing. It was really amazing. And then when you stopped, the heat stopped. How? Even as much as I understand it because I've been practicing for so long. I know the 80B that most people don't read and study, but I know how it works. But once again, it's one thing to read, oh, well, when you read this is what happens. But to experience it is another thing.
Right.
And that was my experience of watching somebody do it on TV or on a phone and actually feeling it.
Well, yeah, I see one of the viewers, Dubba Tats and Cuts, says it was powerful energy that night too. Said I was burning up that night, tears and energy that night. And it actually started as a cold energy, and it was a ball, and it got bigger in my hand, and it started moving my hands. It started moving my hands in filling it out. And then it went from the cold to the electricity coming out of the tips of my fingers. And, and then it kind of, I felt that I really needed to share it and say that it was going to have I do a lot, like I'm posting things like silver, about my silver, because I do silver, but I also have 2 energy posts that I keep streaming here. And there is so much work and technology that's out there that deals with energy, but the main source of energy is us. It's just that we have lost our knowledge, and therefore the abilities are dormant in us. And so unless you go, say I'm a Reiki practitioner, and go and you get your classes, and they do what they do and teach you what they teach you, so you can do what you do. A lot of times now people can sometimes do it and they've never had classes, because the energy is energy. We're all energy. But the thing of it is, it's trying to get people back. That's right. True. Everything, like I said that night, we see each other as individuals, but the source, divine source, sees us as one creation, one mass, if you will. And so, the division is in our own projection. So when you reach out, for instance, you talked about the young lady. I had a young man who, December 22nd of last year, I got a call that he was in the emergency. He was in intensive care, wasn't expected to live. And I had been his pastor when I was pastoring, and I was at a little get together with one of my school friends. And so I rushed down to the hospital, and they told me visiting hours were over. And I'm like, if he's dying, what do visiting hours have to do with it? I mean, they called me to come down. His wife comes out and says, this is his pastor. And so they let me go in the back, and I went in with his daughter, and I did Reiki back there. He was in a coma, and I did Reiki, and all of a sudden his arms started to move. His like you said, the arms and the legs started, like, all of a sudden. And I had gone, I didn't know. They said it hit his head, but I went over his body too. And when I went to this mid part of his body with a lot of reaction, well, come to find out that he had sustained bodily injury. He had been attacked, and he had a lot of injuries to this part of the body as well as the head. So the fall was as a result of being attacked. And a couple of days later, then I went home and I continued the Reiki, because I do distant Reiki, which means energy can go wherever. And I did it that night on him. Well, the next morning, 2 days later, he's out of intensive care, and he was put in another room. Now, I didn't talk to him until about a month and a half or so ago. We had I'd lost contact, but we reconnected because of something I posted on Facebook. And I told him to call me. He had lost my number. He said, he lost short-term memory as a result of the injury, but he was back. He said, he called me Doc. He said, Doc, I've been trying to catch up with you because they told me you saved my life. I said, I didn't save your life. Right. I did Reiki and the energy. No, but you know what I mean. But he said, I've been trying. He said, I couldn't remember your number. He said, but I wanted to, he said, because he said, you saved my life. And so by that time I had come across Jim Quick, and Jim Quick has a book called Limitless. And it's about the brain and how, it's not what you learn, but it's how you learn. And he was a child that they said that's the kid with the broken brain. And now this man teaches people how to remember their lines for movies and scripts and all that. No, like he's that good. So when I reconnected with this young man that day, I said, you know what? I'm reading this really good book, and I think it'll do you good. And I ordered it from Amazon and had it shipped to him, and he got it the next day. And I said, but here was somebody that I got a call on December 22nd of 2019 and said, they're only giving him a couple hours. You know what I mean? And so I went down there and did Reiki, and had faith in that fact that energy is real, and saw his body move, and then went home and continued it, because I do distant Reiki, for people. And and the same thing, my father, Greshik Tajribe, and I were doing he was doing the show on August 15th, and I came off, and I'm in the background, and I ran because my phone kept ringing, and it was my stepmother telling me that my father, who was in a nursing home, was rushed to the hospital with pneumonia. And same thing, couldn't go there though because of COVID. So when the show was over, and actually, but not immediately, but in the middle of the night, I worked on for an hour. I have a proxy bear, and what I do with these, with the bear or anything I do, having proxy, I actually take I got a lot of different ones, but I will take a pendulum and take it over, say the bear in different at the different chakra points. You talked about chakra, and I will put the bear. The intention is who the bear represents, and then I will check the chakras of the bear. But I'm really checking on the bear, but I'm checking the chakras of that individual. And normally, a lot of times, you will find that the pendulum. Look at it going up. Look at it. It's going. Look at the energy in that. I'm not moving it, but look at it. It's like it's got a lot of energy moving in it. But anyway, the pendulum will show me in a reverse sense that the chakras are out of balance, going the way that you saw that going. And then I will do Reiki on the bear, maybe for an hour or so, just like I would be doing a session with a person in person. And then I'll go back and I will retest the chakras. And normally that which was going counterclockwise is now balanced like this, and it's going the right way. You know what I mean? So then that whoever it is you're working on has had an effect on them. So I did that for my dad, and then I was told the next day that they said he stabilized, but 2 days later they said there's no hope. We're going to put him in hospice. And so, by the grace of the Almighty, they didn't put him in hospice at the hospital, because we have a hospital where hospices patients stay 2 to 3 days and then they morphine you out, right? So they help you go. But they took him back to the nursing home hospice where he had been for a couple of years. They knew him. I was visiting my father the other day, and we were talking. He said a little bit here and there. I fed him. That was October 30th, 29th, 30th or something. I was out there. No, I think it was the 28th, October 28th. I was there feeding my dad and playing music. And every now and then it, was something he recognized. A tear came down his eye or he said something. But here we are in November. My dad was given up in August and put in hospice. And my dad is still here because of, I believe, the power of the Reiki, the energy, and love. You know what I mean? Because I believe in that power so strongly.
May I ask you, what is his what did they say, that what's the problem that he has?
Well, he has dementia, Alzheimer's, but he also has a pneumonia. He has at the time when they took him, it was because they said he had pneumonia. Didn't have COVID, but pneumonia. So you can hear sort of chest rattle, in him and so forth. But I go out and talk to him and bought him a brand new CD player and play old Soul Stirrers and Sam Cooke music and whatever. And I mean, I got little videos I've taken of him when I don't, because you never know when he's going to say something. But here it was almost 3 months ago, and they gave him up for dead. And I said to my relatives, you may not believe in this, but I'm going to do it anyway because I know it works. And a lot of times, we think that these things are demonic and that they, but this is a power that, that worketh in us and through us and was given to us, that we have pushed aside and look for external, we look for external resolution to things that really are internal. We have the power, the energy. Like I said, the things that I put across here that I have, now they're great products when it comes to energy and all that. But even on our calls, what we say is, this is just a stand-in for the power that you forgot you had. And when you get it back, when you get back in contact and reconnect with that, we could do amazing things, and we could, these systems, when we can't say too much on social media because they want to shadow ban you and all that stuff. Well, we don't have to get on there to say and to transmit. Our ancestors didn't have this. I mean, they had stuff. I'm convinced. I'm going to say something crazy. When Moses got the tablets, right? So allegedly, that they were probably more like the tablets that we have today. The electronic thing. I don't think it was some Stone Age little, one commandment, two commandment on, carved in stone. But, technology is not new. It's ancient.
You're right. You're absolutely correct about that. That's like a whole different topic that you're going to, because it's like back to Atlantis and Lemuria. If you ever heard of that.
I absolutely have. And because I'm some of the studies that we took with Father Hannibal Bay, Grand Sheik's son, really was showing us how they had so much power and so much energy. It may have been the cause of their demise. A lot of times, they say absolute power corrupts absolutely. And, if you don't know what to do with what you have, it can become, a negative, instead of a building block, it could become a stumbling block.
That's true.
And that's why
it's
so
like
many people have sought to get this power. They want this power, the Aleister Crowleys and the John Dees and all of these mystics and so forth that have,
wow.
Llewellyn that puts all out the compendium of this and that. I'm looking in front of me because I got like books and stuff in front of me everywhere. But people have sought these powers and then got a little piece of it. And then because nobody else, because the masses have been trained away from it to discard it as witchcraft or something that's not real, then the little piece that these people have, they wield it like they have some powerful, mighty gift that nobody could have but them. But everybody had it at one time.
Yes. And that was also part of the problem, which is why they did a lot of trickery and secrecy too, because they feared what happened to Atlantis was going to happen again. Because there's a lot of people who get this power to get a little taste, and now, I'm powerful, and I see it every day. I've met people like, for example, right? Every spiritual system has their own wars. So one of the systems I went to a lot was what they call Hindu Madras. So the Hindu Madras people, when they migrated to Guyana, they started bringing out what's called Kali temples to New York. Some of these people, if you see what they fight for, taking people's powers, like somebody will sit there and say, oh my God, he's possessed by this deity. Like, oh my God, how did he get that? Let me see if I can take that from him. It's like, you guys really play games like that? And a lot of them do. They like playing these games because they have no idea what they're doing. They just lost and don't understand that we all have our own powers. We're all born with our own powers. It's all about connecting with your inner power and connecting to an outer power. So your inner socket to an outer socket will make your power stronger. So what happens when you connect to something that's not of you? Anything can happen. It can be a positive effect, or it can be affected by your DNA. If your DNA don't agree, it'll just go the other way. So power. A lot of people, what is power? The same breath you breathe. There's power in that. Touch. There's power in that. Your eyes. There's power in that too. Your scent is power. Your ear power. This is why, if you notice it, why does everybody want to attack your head? The government officials, everything. Why do people pay billions of dollars to do advertisement? Because they know if I keep repeating this into your eye and having you see this over and over and over, I get you to spend money on what I want you to buy. So it's the same like you said, hand chakra, and I could feel it through, even though it was a replay, I felt it through the phone.
Mm-hmm.
So these people, they take the same, this is what a lot of Caucasians too, they, not all of them, but a lot of them, they're good for perverting the natural order of what it is into making it into something that they want for themselves. This is what a lot of them do. So here it is, you have some hand, I'm doing healing with this hand, I'm doing healing, and I'm sending it through the phone. But now I'm going to do advertisement. And through the advertisement, I'm going to call up a demon or a departed soul that works for me and attach him to this frequency so that when you hear it, I get you to do what I want. This is why you have to be very cautious what you watch and what you listen to on the radio. Even the music nowadays, there's very few that I listen to, but the one nowadays, the reason why I don't like it is like what Sadhu Oddiyah was saying. They won't let you get your masters because do something to your masters. The minute Michael got his, take him out. Prince got his, take him out. I just wanted to, like this is what they do. They manipulate the energies, sound a frequency, and that's it.
Oh yeah,
they don't want to hear you control.
Yeah, but we are learning how, like I said, things are coming out that we can, undo a lot of the negative programming and so forth. I'm right now I'm showing something. We have a system, an AO scan system that's used to be 38,000 notes to get it for practitioners. That's now come down to a cell phone that a person could, or a little tablet a person can hold and do the same thing. And one of the things that they're able to do with these frequencies is to change the frequencies that have been imprinted in our lives through, generations, even like say 4 generations. This system can actually go in, can scan your body, scan you, and then begin to peel away at least 4 generations of what we might call generational curses or some kinds of bents or tendencies that have followed, you, and clear them up. You can take things like driver's license and clear the driver's license of what's, what they imprint stuff. If you look at them now, the back of them, they have like a barcode. You can actually put it on this device that's like a cell phone. That is a cell phone, but it's got software. Clear whatever they put in there, because they put stuff in coding, and then put it back on and imprint it with what you want it to be. There's technology that allows you to be able to do stuff like this, to take a bottle of water and to imprint it with, say you're not feeling like yourself, like maybe your blood sugar levels or something seem to be a little high. So I'm going to imprint this water with what I need to regulate and just give me balance energetically. The water will be imprinted with the intention. And when you drink it, it'll do what you won't need a pill.
It changes the frequency.
Yes.
Yes, it changes your frequency. You're right.
And this technology, some of it was done by French, some of it was done by the Germans, some of it was, and the one brother said, and some of it was done, we call the inner voice, by the Moors, created years and years and years ago. And so technology is now, but it's really old stuff that we have always had, but we forgot we had. We forgot we don't even know we had the ability to do that.
That's amazing what you did, because I don't know if you ever heard of a guy called Brother Hank.
No.
He does different types of stone, and he made this what do you call it, magnetic copper bracelet.
Okay.
Stuff like that. He has a site too, but when I went to see him, he had this water cooler that had a stone on top of it, and apparently you can also buy it on, I think, Amazon or eBay. It's very expensive, but apparently what they do is they use the frequency of the stone to charge the water to that same kind of frequency of what you're talking about. So like you say, oh, well, I have, if I have heart problems, you frequency it to heal your heart problems. Or if I have a bad habit I can't get rid of, I drink too much or I eat too much, you use stone to frequency the water. So when you drink the water, it helps you to eventually stop that.
Right. Well, everything has an energetic frequency imprint. So optimal blood pressure, optimal bone density. I'm just saying anything that we have happening in us has what's optimal. So what happens with the scan, and the scan works as easy as taking a picture of a person and putting their information in and pressing some buttons, and it is able to take the imprint that way, or it'll take it from maybe 30 seconds of a person speaking into it from a voice imprint. It's able to do what a diagnostically without any invasive, no needles, nothing attached to you, and then give you a printout of your body and show you where you're balanced and show you where you're out of balance, and then give you tones. Here we go back, tones, energetic tones to rebalance yourself, to an optimal, balance over maybe a period of, a couple of weeks, maybe it might be a month or two, and some things are immediate. I mean, it's to the extent that, you know, we have a piece that will actually, you know, in 2 weeks of using it 3 times a day is like, if you have any emotional problems, they say it's like laying on a couch for 10 years in a psychiatrist's office. It clears the stuff, because a lot of people have stuff that even their subconscious, that they subconsciously are dealing with, that has affected their physiology. And they think is, you know, but it's something else. It's not necessarily, you know, the reason why, you know, you a lot of times, well, the blood pressure is high because you ate, no, maybe you don't, you know, eat a lot of salt or do like that, but maybe it's an emotional issue. You know, this thing is so that it can I saw some of some of the panels and stuff it does. It can even tell if if a man's sperm count is normal or not. And it doesn't touch you. And it's awesome. It's amazing. And so, you know, everything. And they have harnessed this stuff, and they've been using this stuff and making it out of reach for the average person for a long time. But if we ever get back to how we were, we wouldn't even need that technology, because that technology is a copy of us, who we are on our higher level.
Absolutely. Like you don't know right now. You got my brain. I could feel my brain bubbling from what you just told me. It's like that's very impressive. A machine that can do that, and I'm sure, you know, as you say, this is something that we've been doing long before.
Yes, yeah.
This is long before. This is why over and over, a lot of us reincarnated souls going through the same thing again and again and again and again. Now,
until we remember.
For me, the only question that I have. Yes. You see, like for me now, the only that I have. This is the only question that I have. And this is dealing with experiences that now, for example, as I said, you know, I do spell casting and healings and cleansings and different things like that. So, like, for example, I had a client that they wanted help. It's something they wanted help with. I said, let's say, for example, the person always had a problem with his vehicle, so he wanted a spell to protect his vehicle. That's what he wanted, and the spell worked, to say, for only 3 weeks, and then he got into an accident again. So when I went and investigated through the spirit to find out what happened, they said it was his karma. I said, what do you mean? He said, how can someone ask for a spell of protection for your vehicle and he drives so recklessly? He's a reckless driver, so he had to learn this. So my point of saying it with that is, let's just say, hypothetically speaking, the machinery could move something that you're going through, but it has to do with a karmatic energy. If it's a karmatic energy, I would like to know, if you remove it, will it still come back?
That's that I don't know. Yeah, that I don't know. Exactly. I mean, there's all kinds of things like out there. Like I deal, you know, anytime it has energy to deal with energy, you know, I get fascinated about it, because, you know, as an energy worker, you know, I have a thing that I'm running, you know, right now, that I put a program on me that was for prosperity, and I ran the program for myself and put it on. And the day after I ran it, somebody called me and showed me, you know, say some finances they had in their hand. And I said, oh, can I have, you know, I think I said $50. And it's not something they would normally. They said, sure. And so then I said, well, can I have 100? And then they said no. But then I said, it doesn't matter, because when I had just put the prosperity program boost on myself, to me, 50 notes more was prosperity. And then a couple of weeks later, somebody wanted me to even the very program that I was running, somebody had paid for me to be in it, because they wanted me to try it out. And then a week or two later, somebody else wanted me to do something else, and they expended a whole bunch of finance because they wanted me to do this. Today, I had something where I called somebody about something, and I didn't know them, in a total different state. No, another another nationality. And I said to this person, I asked him, could I do something? Could I get something that early instead of waiting for it? And they said, sure, lovely lady. And it was another lady, wasn't a male. And then I mentioned something else that I wanted to get. And they told me that they weren't in the part. I said, do you have my credit card from when I ordered the original thing? And they said, no, we're shipping. But she said to me, but if you want that, she said, I'll make sure that I put it when I send your other product. That thing that she's given me was 108 notes plus $20 shipping.
Wow.
And she said,
wow.
She said, I'm in shipping. So I'll make sure it's in there with your other thing. So prosperity comes in all kinds of forms, it comes in, it's not always somebody physically putting something in your hand, but when you didn't have to have an outlay, or even just, to me, prosperity might even be somebody giving you a compliment that makes you feel good. And to me, that added to me. Or if I do it for somebody else, it's adding to them, giving them, some uplifting words and some kind words. I mean, that's adding. It's not always, the fiat. And so the energy of it does make a difference to the recipient.
Yes.
So,
yes.
I don't want to get.
I totally agree with you.
Yeah, I don't want to stay there because I know, people don't want to hear me. They can hear me anytime. When it comes down to your, now you do these things with the bowls, with all kinds of, you read, well, what do you do? Because some of this, you do a lot of stuff, and we know what astrology and numerology is. We didn't get into the Santeria, because when I think of voodoo and Santeria, I see people spinning and going into trances and all that. I don't know whether I feel like it's more, and I could be wrong, more of a religion. I don't know if it has an outcome, like as if somebody is getting a reading, or is it just an experience for those that are participating in the practice?
Well, you see, in the TV, it's called Hollywood. Hollywood will just show their own interpretation, and that's just what they do. Because a lot of ways too, they like to make anything done by melanated people. They like to make it discredited so that it looks bad. Oh, it's this. Oh, it's that. But in the meanwhile, they into your stuff more than you are. Like for example, right? Palo Mayombe. I was into that Palo Mayombe, and when I first got initiated into that, because you were blindfolded, I can't give all the secrets, but when you go through initiation, and when I came out of it, I'm looking around to see who's around me. There was only one other brother that looked like me. Everybody else was either Latino, Italian, or white. And these were judges and lawyers who was into this thing for over 16, 17 years. And I'm like, oh my God. I said, ain't these the same people that like go Jesus, and you into this what? Because if you know what Palo Mayombe is, they call it a prenda. It's like a big witch bowl, like what they call a cauldron.
Mm-hmm.
And in this cauldron, some of them have human bones and different things they put inside it to work an entity or a force. So it can be very witchy. You can do good and bad with it, but there are some you can do very bad with it. So for me to get there and look at all these people in there, and like there's only one other brother besides me, it's like, oh my God, like they really got us all warped up. They got us good. They're telling us don't do this, and the whole time they're using our own stuff to hurt us. That's what they're doing, left and right. Like it really shocks the crap out of me when I saw all these people who you would never think in your life. Like I said, lawyers and judges and prosecutors into this.
Wonder what they would be using that for.
Darker than food. Protection.
So they're using it for.
A lot of people is not dumb.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, some of them use it for protection, because there are people when it's time, like for example, right? I know people, when it's time to go to court, you come see me. So I'm gonna do what I do. to help you win that case.
Right.
You pay your money, I do the job. But 9 out of 10 times, like I said, if I know you wicked, you keep your money. I'm not helping you if you're a child molester. I'm not helping you if you're a rapist, you're a murderer. Get out of my face. I don't want to help you. Find somebody else. But like I said, little rinky-dinky stuff. People do these spells. Some people do these spells and they go on the dark side to do these spells. And when it's time for the judge or whoever the lawyer is or the prosecutor, he can't even make it to the courthouse now. Or if he makes it to the courthouse, he's so sick and dizzy, he can't even do his job right. And guess what? You get over the case now.
I remember speaking to a group of women. Yeah, I was speaking to a group of women a couple of years ago at an event where it was really a lot of Christian women there. And, I was thinking, how was I going to do this? And I remember I just saw the video not too long ago and I was teaching them about the words abracadabra. And it was funny because I had really had them saying it by the end of it, but because people get, but basically it just means as I speak, I create, or I create as I speak. In other words, that what I say, it's like the ashe, and it is so. And it ashe at the end of something is a definitive, and so be it, so mote it be. And so they used,
so in
those up so mote it be, abracadabra has a similar meaning, and that we've seen it in the, and they've used it, the wonderful world of, Disney and the bibbidi bobbidi boom and the magic wands and everything. This particular wand was made for me. It's a copper wand. But it's just that you have to know that what you say is being made manifest. You can't waver. And that's what they do. They have plans, 1,000-year plans. They don't necessarily live 1,000 years, but how do their plans live? Belief in what they say definitively and passing it on, teaching it to the next generation to keep it alive until it comes to fruition. And at the same time, creating new plans. Because 1,000 years is just 1,000, but we don't do that anymore. We don't do what we knew to do. They do what we knew to do. We taught them what we knew and forgot that we were the ones that taught them.
You're absolutely right about that again. Absolutely correct. It's true. It's true what you're saying. And some of them, they have learned and they mastered our craft and they use it even against us. It's sad because we already been brainwashed that if it's not Jesus, it's bad. Like to be honest, one of the biggest follies, if I was to educate anyone and tell them, the biggest folly that how they really, really got us is through that Bible verse of saying, talk to your ancestors or praying to your dead. That's demonic and that's so and so. Yo, that's a setup. And that setup is what's actually destroying our people. Literally. Because if you don't know how spiritualism works, if you don't know how it works, you will fall for everything. So this is what they do. They tell everyone, oh no, don't do that. Pray to Jesus. Jesus is everything. God is whatever, blah, 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 blah. And they tell you to forget about it. Once they're dead, they're dead. And that's what they tell you. So we grow up believing that. Meanwhile, your dead is struggling because they need light. They need a service from you. Why, if you look at the African tradition, and it's in almost every tradition as well, it's a big thing on making sure you bury your dead. There's a ceremony that you do to help them cross over. When you don't do that, they end up staying stuck like a wraith. And then they start to haunt you and the rest of the siblings. They haunt you. And then when they haunt you, you have bad things that happen to you in life. Not as ancestors, like, oh my God, I'm suffering here, and I gotta hold on to you. And then they hold on to you, and you start having bad things happen to you. This happens a lot of times. So when they teach us that, and they do that to us so that they can actually bribe your ancestors. So all somebody has to do is, hey, someone who's skilled. Let's say it don't matter if they're Caucasian, Moorish, whatever, but they know how to deal with the spirit world. So I call your uncle, hey, yo, come here. He don't care about you. Here, I put a plate of food, give you a light. I'm gonna offer some prayers for you too and raise you up. So now the spirit's getting elevated. What do you want me to do for you? Go keep giving these black guys, keep them dumb, deaf, and blind. Okay, fine. They didn't give me nothing anyway. And so said, so done.
So what you're saying is because
if you're not taking care of your ancestors.
Yeah, so we have allowed them to tell us that we should not be paying homage to them. The dead know nothing. There's a scripture that says the dead know nothing.
Yes.
You know.
And that's not true. That's not true. That is so wrong. Like, do you really believe when you're doing Reiki that you're doing it alone?
Oh no. When I do my prayers and so forth would go for Reiki. I mean, I am giving homage to, a lot of, including the ancestors and including the ones that rediscovered, that energy, and my ancestors and the, ascended masters and all of those beings, the help, all of those angelic beings that will assist and help. There have been times when people have had Reiki done and it would be one practitioner, but the person will say, I felt like a bunch of hands were on me. I felt, all kinds of hands on me. Well, that was the assistance that you invite to do what they do best.
Absolutely.
And all you are anyway is a conduit. Mm-hmm. I'm a conduit. The power is not mine. The power worketh through me. It doesn't come from me. It is. And so residually, I get, I get to feel a little bit of the effects of it coming through me, but it's not my power. It's like me being a hose and saying, flow through me. I'm the hose and you can flow through me and get to him or get to her or get to that, even the pets, even, food, you can put Reiki on the stuff your pills and your food and your whatever, your wallet.
Absolutely. You're correct. You're absolutely correct. You're correct.
And I've used
movie, Doctor Strange.
I saw the one that was a few years ago. You mean?
No, this was recently. Doctor Strange, the Marvel movie.
The Marvel movie, and they were like in the different dimensions and all that stuff. That one, yeah.
So towards the end of the movie, when Mordor goes rogue, he goes after one of the sorcerers that left, and he says, "Oh," the guy says, "That's my power, your power," and he goes. When the guy swung at him with the crowbar, he goes like this on his solar plexus area and pulls the energy that the guy was using to keep himself.
Oh yeah, out of his chest. Like
once he pulled that energy out, the guy. Yes, the guy turned back handicapped and fell down.
Right, because it's not your power.
Understand? So there is power yours you're born with, and there's.
Yeah, I'm always cognizant. I'm always cognizant.
Power, you have your own power. Everything has.
Right, but you have to be a conduit for that higher that higher power. You can't contain it all in yourself anyway. All of the time. So you have to be able to, and then after that, you also have to be able to clear the energies, because when you're doing that when I do work, I'm cognizant that the energy that I'm cutting away and taking away and smoothing out and doing whatever, a lot of it's got to go somewhere, and I may be throwing it up to the atmosphere, but some of it like drops on me. So now I'm using selenite wands and selenite shaped soap stuff to clear myself, because I don't want any of that. I don't know what, I'm not going to keep that with me. It's there. So all of it's real. It's all tangible. It's things that we've not been privy to, because we have allowed ourselves to be indoctrinated by dogmatic religious beliefs that took away the very things that the people that they based these beliefs on believed in wholeheartedly. I mean, they had oracles and people that they would go to that would be able to speak as a mouthpiece for the Most High to them, if there was some special something that needed to be said, a lot of things. And now we relegated it to a few people in a pulpit, pulling people, into a pit and saying, if it's not coming from there, then it's not of God. But, to me, my thing is that God is, I am God. God is in me, I have the Most High, and that scripture that they quote says that the greater one lives on the inside of you. So if that's true, greater is greater.
Yes.
And that means, and it's not just me, it's not you. And I was telling, I think brother Sabir or something, I said, there's a scripture that said we have this treasure, this treasure hidden in earthen vessels. And I was like, that's us. That the pearl of great price, the treasure is that God hid itself in humanity to experience in the multitude of ways that it could, this third dimensional existence.
Right. Absolutely. I can agree with you with that. Absolutely.
So, sometimes, you can say, look, if you're doing something crazy, you might say God's having a moment. God's doing God's thing, because truly, if God's on the inside, seriously, if God's on the inside and God is, having, these experiences, good, bad, we have, indifferent, they're all God experiences. And what is God?
Absolutely.
It is a verb. God is a verb. Is doing something.
Yeah, of action, of doing something. And this is why, for me, in my journey of spiritualism, even when at times I do prayers, I do meditation, I do chants. Whenever I pray, I don't say God anymore. I say God, because when you look at the Catholic in the faith system, they are, I'm sorry to say it like this, but they're womanizers. They're womanizers. In their system of devotion and worship, they see God as masculine. In the name of the Father and of the Son and the Holy Spirit. What happened to the mother? What happened to the daughter?
Wrote her out.
You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? So, once again, I've yet heard of a child coming out of a man's pee-pee. So, to come through this world, the vortex you're coming from is a woman's, I call it, and they say vagina, I say yoni. You have a Shiva lingam and a yoni. So, the lingam represents the phallic symbol, and around the Shiva lingam, they have what's called a yoni, which represents the vagina, because with the yoni and the lingam, they say Shiva Shakti, which is what created the whole universe. That's the origin. The origin of everything comes from both balance of male and female, yin and yang. So in Cathology, you're basically saying, forget the yang, it's all about the male. So you're keeping the woman submerged so that you can sit above her and control her. So I don't have the image with me here, but if you look up the image of the divine goddess, they call her Bhadra Kali, but they call her Kali. And she always have her tongue sticking out, and she's standing on top of Shiva. But that symbolizes that the man is laying there in adoration of her, in respect to the divine feminine. And this is what Moors do as well. We respect Ma, the mother. Mason is his mother's son. So in spiritualism, even in the past, every spiritual system, everyone, the women were the one who was ruling. The men infiltrated and learned from the women and took over everything. This is what they did. And I even when I got into center, I learned that even more. I was like, are you serious? This is why in Brazil, the system of Santeria in Brazil, it's the women who control everything. Up to this day, they rarely allow a man to get possessed by the deity. It's very rare they allow that, from what I heard. I haven't been there for myself to see, but from my doctrine of studying, it's the women who run the show. Am I against that? No, I'm not. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I mean, you can try and educate women too nowadays. And what really shocks me is if I tell a woman and I try to educate her on her divinity, on who she is, some of them, they look at you like, yo, you weird, bro. Like, thank you very much, but I prefer it this way. And I'm like, wow, okay, as you wish. I respect your wishes. But I know what I know, and facts is facts.
I know there was someone who had a question about. Go ahead, and then I'm going to ask you a question.
Yeah, so like I was saying back about, not to lose topic when I said about, honoring our dead. Here it is, they're telling you don't pray to the dead, this and that and the third. But people have the old Catholic ways. That altar they have there, it has dead bodies in it. Different cardinals. They use that as an effigy to do the in the Catholic Church.
Yeah.
Like I remember there's one in Manhattan. It's 116th Street. It's an old Catholic temple. The minute I'm like, I want to vomit. I can literally feel the spirits in that place. It's just so. There's so many. What do they call it? Not esophagus. I can never get that word right. Sarcophagus. There's so many of them. Yeah, there's so many of them in there, of different cardinals and so on that they have now. So they would use these spirits in the past with the Latin language. They would say the prayers using the Gregorian chant, and a lot of people never knew. You could research it yourself and find out. Is the old way of Catholicism, when they start doing the first prayers, they do what's called a black mass. If you know what a black mass is, it's a satanic mass.
Wow.
Is it a good thing they were doing? Kind of. When you understand why they were doing it, it made sense, because the way they were doing it before was, so let's just say, hypothetically speaking, a church can have 72 people inside a church. What the black mass does is it invokes all the dead spirit, all the bad energy. So if you come in there and they're doing the prayers, if there's anything evil on you, as they're doing the prayers, the is pulling the evil from you. This is what they were doing. So once the black mass, they call all the evil. After that, they do the anointing and bring the help. But as a person now who has the knowledge and the wisdom, they were doing more than just that. They weren't just also calling the evil out of people and dismissing it. They were trying their best to call all the people's ancestors and control them.
Wow, to do their bidding.
After a time, somebody put them in their place. Yes. So eventually they had to stop using the Latin language for some reason, because they knew that the Latin language was actually keeping people dumb, deaf, and blind through their prayers. It was strong, so they had to cut that off.
Wow.
That's what was going on.
There was a question with regard to, I think, ancestral altars. Do you recommend them, or do you teach how to properly set up an ancestral altar? Do you have ancestral altars?
Yes, I do. I have, to be honest, 3. Ancestral altar is very good to have for anybody. Finding out how to do the right way is very. You have to find exactly, and I do that for people too. I charge a small fee, but I do it for people as well. That you set up your own altar and you work with it. You work with it every day, and this is what you want, because your ancestors will not lie to you. People go to these different ceremonies, like I said, like Palo Mayombe, and they'll give you whatever you may pay for as a spiritual guide or whatever, but you don't know what the spirit he put in there he gave to you. For all that spirit, the same dead spirit could be controlled by that person who gave it to you and give you a hard time. But now if you deal with your own dead spirits, they're the ones who make sure that you're okay, that they love you, they cherish you, and want you to grow, because as you grow, they are growing too. So yes, I do recommend.
So you need to have something of their. If you don't have, like, say, your ancestral, like, say, pictures or artifacts. Like, for instance, I spent the last week or so, one day last week, visiting my uncle, my mother's only living sibling. My mother transitioned in 2002, but my uncle gave me like such a history. I mean, no, not history. I don't like the word history, but the story of our family, that things I didn't know. I 65 years old and didn't know these things. And my uncle gave me so much information. And so my biological, my maternal grandmother passed at the age of 33. So of course I wasn't around. My mother was only 7. So now I know things about her. I don't have pictures and things like that. But if we have, like, say, their name and their birth date and, things that somebody told you about them, and you could write that on the person, they on a piece of paper, that they were sweet dispositioned and they love going to church. And this is, for instance, what I was told. Can you put words and so forth on an altar to represent? And if you don't know what their favorite food was and things like that, because I've heard things like put a plate of something out, and when you make a food plate for you, make a plate for your ancestors, and let it stay out, until it, I don't know how long I don't know, you change it every day, I guess. And if you're going to eat every day, you feed them every day. I mean, do you do things like that with your altar?
Yes, I have. Like I said, I have more than one different ancestor altar. In your ancestor altar, let's say, like, okay, I have pictures of my immediate dead, because there's 2 type of ancestor altars. You have the one for your immediate dead, and you have one for all the ancestors that have been here for the years and years and years that walk with you. So that's 2 types of altars. So, like, I had this one ancestor that came up to me in a meeting, and they said, when they described her and they were speaking to her, she said that she existed 300 years before slavery was even thought of. And she practiced every spiritual sect that's out there, whatever she knows all of that. But her favorite was always Voodoo and Palomayom. That was her favorite.
Wow. So she came up in
ancestor altar. If you don't have a picture of,
I was going to say, how did she come to you? Was it in a like a mediumship type thing,
no,
or were
she didn't
you?
come to me. No, it was being done for me through another medium. They were doing. It was 2 of them doing the work for me. They call it, the Spanish name, they call it a misa. The melanated people, we call it Ancestral. Where it's like you sit there and they do things for you and find out. They do the ceremony and find out for you whatever it has to be found out for you, because whatever they do, the prayers they offer, and they offer it in your name, and your ancestor will come and speak to them and tell them X, Y, Z.
Okay.
Whatever information is needed. So now, in my experience, before even learning of that, when I was practicing Hinduism with another family member, relative, we do something, we call it prasad. Prasad is any food or fruit you offer to God. After you offer it, you can consume it, because it becomes a healing for your mind, soul, and your body. We call that prasad. So the family that I was learning from at the time in Trinidad, they would also, when they do their prayers, they would have a section for a past relative, like, let's say, a grandma or grandpa, and they would put a plate of food for this grandma and grandpa, and after 15 minutes, they would consume it.
Oh, they would eat it. Okay.
But one of the people, yeah, because normally if you're just putting it there for that person where it's not in a prasad basis, if it's not a prasad basis, you would leave it there for 3 days or so, and then you disregard it. In a prasad format, you're offering it to take back. So that you can say to your ancestor, look, you know, I don't feel too good. I don't want to die. Da, 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 da. I'm offering you this. Can you bless it so when I eat it, I can feel better? And 9 out of 10 times it would work. It'll be a gradual process, but it would work.
Mm-hmm. So
Yes.
even if like a person has a child, like in my case, I have a child. I mean, she's not an ancestor, but you know, who transitioned at a very, you know, in infancy, and you know, I mean, you talked about two different kinds of altars. I mean,
was she stillborn or
no,
and how did it go?
no, she was not stillborn. She
I'm sorry if I make you feel comfortable.
No. She wasn't stillborn. She just not just, but she passed with as a result of they said it was what do they call that? Crib death.
Oh no. I don't. I'm sorry. That's the. Ooh,
you see her?
A different door.
Did you see that?
Huh?
I said,
no. I was my mind. Nah, it's so. Hold on.
I don't know if you can see it. I can't.
You can bring it closer. Oh, mine. Closer. I saw a little bit of it. Just a little bit. Yeah, closer. I see a little bit more. She's beautiful. Oh my God, she's beautiful. Well, what I would tell you is this. Yeah, she's gorgeous. 9 out of 10 times, usually, when a child goes, they become what's called an angel baby, like they or higher purposes. But if it's we can talk off the set and do what's called a spiritual investigation to see what really happened, because I've dealt with cases like that before, and 9 out of 10 times it wasn't something nice. It was like somebody was at war with somebody, and they sent the spirit to kill the child, and that was like a spiritual warfare. I'm not saying that's your case, but usually crib deaths is usually something like that happens, or it could even be an entity was a dark force was placed, or probably followed you from the hospital, and it just, you know. But not everybody's aware of it. That's why you do what's called a spiritual investigation and find out what happened. But like I said, that's the negative aspect of it. But in the positive aspect of it as well, it could just be that God called that child to be an angelic being to watch over you and help you with your going and comings.
Perhaps we'll talk offline. I'll tell you. We will talk. Let me just see if there are any questions.
Even what I wanted to tell you. What I wanted to tell you too about was, as I told you, I'm a healer. So the situation with your father, offset. When we finish, you can talk later. I have some remedies that can help him with your situation as well.
Okay.
So we can talk about that too after.
I'd love to see. Yeah, I'd love a miracle.
To me, I love healing, even though, like I tell many people in truth, like I've been doing it for a long time to the point where I guess I learned too much and I put in all that work. Now, my spirit guides and so on, they don't want me to work a regular 9 to 5. So my only way of survival is doing spiritual work.
Wow.
So I feel like if you, once again, like Dr. Strange, if you see how Dr. Strange in the movie, he was very conceited, very reckless, got into a car accident. But if it wasn't for that car accident, he wouldn't be who he was today.
I made sure that at the bottom people can see your email address and the number. I think that's a contact number, right? The 917 number.
And I put on my spectacles. 917-382. Yeah. Yes.
Okay. So if anyone wants to get in touch with you,
yes, I do many things
and the phone number.
I
like the phone. Yeah, I want to say that, like I said, when I got your email with regard to the experience that you had with the, with the energy, it was for me. That was validation for me. Just like I said, when you had the conversation with the stranger that you just shared, you emailing me and telling me how that replay of the actual, you weren't even looking at when it was actually being done, that you felt that energy, because I decreed it that it was going to be felt afterwards, and you felt it afterwards. And I don't even think that's what I was saying, but that's at the point when you heard it, you just felt it. And so I want to say thank you for reaching out to me and, giving me that validation, because a lot of times, we don't know. I was kind of apologetic afterwards, because I kept saying, I'm not preaching. I was afraid that people were thinking that I was preaching, but I was pretty much I was being consumed by that energy at the moment, and I had to release it. And I pray that it will bring more unity, to our people. And then I think that's what I was talking about at the time, because we were talking about all kinds of things that we could be doing to build our nation and so forth and so on. But I'm sure those of you, I appreciate you who have been, and I didn't say it, and I should have said, I can't remember to do the thumbs up, press like, share. I didn't do that. I rarely do it, but I will. If somebody want me to hit the bowl again, I will do the singing bowl again before we go. But please make sure, if you haven't, press like, thumbs up. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please subscribe to the channel. And if you're out there and you have a something that you think that the rest of us want to hear, reach out to me. I'm going to put my little "Are you my next guest" flyer up too, because a lot of times I struggle, you believe it or not, with getting people to come on the show. And I want you all to know that if it's a Tuesday that pops up sometimes and there's nobody on the show, it's because I don't have anybody to be on the show. So, I know you are, a lot of times, people will recommend people. You should get this person and you should get that person, but that they don't know. If they don't know that person to connect them with me, I certainly can't get them. You know what I mean? I don't think I'm big enough yet to have people. They're not clamoring to be on Office Hours with Dr. G. So, but those that, like yourself, who come and share, from your heart, honestly, things that you don't normally see, and hear other places. I mean, that's what Office Hours is about. This is where, you, whatever you need out there, is just what the doctor ordered, I suppose. And you saved my week this week. I wasn't sure when we got to the end, I was like, is he really going to do this? Because we talked just briefly. But thank you for coming through, and thank you for all of the wonderful information that you have shared. And I'm definitely going to be talking to you offline. Please, I will. And for those of you, please take down the number. If not, you see it in the replay. You're gonna get to the end, because now I'll leave it up like this so people can see it. But I want people. I love it when people patronize my guests, when they contact them and get the readings, or get the the soap and products, or the tea, or whatever it is that they have, or sign up for some silver. By the way, silver's $29.97 an ounce now. It has dropped down. So we don't know what the outcome of the election. I don't know what it is. So anything can happen tomorrow. I don't know. Everything could collapse come tomorrow. But right now, silver's $29.97 an ounce, after going all the way up to 33 from 23. So I would say it's under 30. If you're thinking about getting some silver, please make sure you get some silver. If you need a reading, please reach out to our brother. And he's got a plethora of services. Do you do tarot? You didn't say that though. So I'm assuming you don't read tarot. Do you, or do you not?
I do work with tarot cards too. But the deck that I use the most is one that is called Angel Oracle.
Okay.
Now, I don't know if they still make this one, because I've seen so many new kinds, but the one I use, I do Angel Oracle.
I have a bin down here with like about 25 different cards down there. I even have Moorish cards, Oracle cards. Yeah, I can see them right there.
Wait, they have Moorish.
Let me slide out of frame for just a minute, just to grab.
They have Moorish. Yeah, please let me see that one. I'm very interested.
Okay, let me see. Um, Tarot of the Moors. Can you see it?
Oh my God.
And let me open it up.
Ooh, next.
As a, but some of them, but I mean, these cards are, these are. I'm just trying to, yeah. Just so you see. So they have cards for Moors.
Yeah, I can work them.
Yep. So there are, for those of you, yep, Tarot of the Moors. But listen, I don't want to.
I'm going to try and get that.
I'm sorry. I beg your pardon, rather.
Can I? I'm going to get that, but there's something I want to say as a message as well. In all our spiritual systems out there, people always once again honor our dead. Now, even though in the Moorish Circle 7 Quran that we use, what I'm going to say is probably against the rules. It's going to sound very much against rules, but I'm a person, I go by what my spirit shows me. So Prophet Noble Drew Ali did so much for us and opened the doorway for us. What is wrong to give him a candlelight and offer a prayer for him? What is it to show gratitude to our dead who opened the way for us?
Yeah.
What do you think about that? What is it to give him a candlelight, a glass of water, and gratitude, Noble Drew Ali, for opening the way to keep us out of slavery? Don't they know that if we as Moors expect to really open that door for all of us to unite and make it, we all got to act like those Jebusites, the so-called Jews. We got to pray to our founder, have him, raise his energy up so that he can fight those satanic energies that's coming against us. That's what I'm trying to say. We need to raise our spirits of our past ones, especially Noble Drew Ali. May he rest in peace. May he be elevated over and over. So all of those Moors out there, like Ron March, the Bay, Joey Bounds, Jalil, Dayame, all these Moors out there, Taj, Sabir, even Moors I don't even know about, Blue Pill, all of these Moors. May that light of Drew Ali shine on all of them as they continue to do the good work. Like I said, a lot of Moors don't get along. The famous word, what I eat don't make you shit. But guess what? Together we can do this. Together. We got to do this together. If we keep letting them trick us and creating these fake wars between each other, we're not going to make it. Remember how Malcolm X, also they called him Malik El-Shabazz because he was more, he knew himself. When he came back, why did they kill him? They killed him for what purpose? Because he was showing the unity of the Caucasian and the melanated people. This government want what? Divide and conquer. Oh yeah, Albion this or this one that, and don't get it twisted. Don't get it twisted. There are a lot of racial people out there. It's true. But there are also good people out there. We have to learn to respect ourselves, respect each other, raise our vibrations of ourselves and each other, and unite with those who are there for us in the cause. Straight up and down. Even, God forbid, I could be not getting along with a Moor. I'm not going to slam him in front of nobody. You're going to hear me say nothing but good about that Moor because you know what? No matter what, they're still trying. What are you doing? What are we doing? These ones over here, they try. They put in that work for us to be where we at today. So
that's right.
I'm going to give gratitude to those Moors I name and all the ones I'm going to still always give them gratitude, whether some like me or not. I don't care. I'm grateful that y'all open the door, y'all open my mind, and I know I'm not where I want to be yet, but I will be. And I'm grateful that Noble Drew Ali woke all you guys up, and I'm doing what I can help humanity in my own way. We all have to pave a pathway for ourselves. You do law, you do this, you do that. I'm doing the spirituality part. And I want to make sure people learn, our Moors learn this. So when you add that to what you're already doing, you become more than the boss. That's what I gotta say.
Thank you so much.
Because there's so much right now. The last thing I saw that really, really, really twisted me was somebody posted on IG, and I posted on IG as well. I copied and I linked it. They were selling a coloring book for children. And the coloring book was how to conjure demons. And they made it look like a cartoon. So I'm looking through this whole book pages, and they copied the same Lesser Key of Solomon, took each seal of the 72 evil spirits and put a cartoon next to it, telling kids, oh, if your mother is forcing you to clean your room, write this seal down and say, get rid of mommy.
My.
Oh, are you serious? A real demon thing they putting for kids to buy? And nowadays, most of our Moors who think that they are black don't believe in shit. So they're looking at, whatever, and don't realize you have a full-fledged demon in your home getting ready to have sex with you and your kids and destroy everything. And you have no idea what's about to happen. They put so much tricks. So you have Moors as well who don't know certain terms. Like, I had a friend we usually talk, and they would usually say to me, oh, I'm running my little phase. I'm running a little phase. What? I've been studying astrology all the time. I never heard that before. And if you know what it is to call that name and speak that name in your home, you're only inviting to have bad menstrual problems. You're only inviting miscarriages in your home. You're inviting damage to your children. You're inviting fibroids. But they don't know this because they're not educated on this. So I need people to be strong with your ancestors so that they can help you protect yourself from all the tricks of technology that these satanic people are doing out there. It's so sad. Like, when I tell you, if I, like I said, there might be another time I do another segment for you, and I'll show you some more stuff, because I have this is like maybe 5% of the stuff I wanted to talk to you about. I have so much that, and I know time's almost up, so there's so much more I have here to talk about.
Well, I'll have you back. Yeah, I'll have you back. We've actually been on here about 2 hours and 10 minutes.
Do not fall for it, yo.
It's about 10 minutes, almost 9 minutes. But it's okay. Well, I'll have you back.
I can't hear you.
I said, you can't hear me? Can you hear me? You don't hear me?
Can you hear me?
I hear you.
Damn. I don't hear you at all.
Don't know what's going on, but do you all out there hear? Can you hear me? I want to make sure you hear me.
Oh my God, I don't hear you at all.
Anybody? Do you hear me, or have I gone silent? Does somebody out there tell me whether or not they hear me? Just put a yes, no, maybe.
This is so sad. I can't hear you at all.
I guess they can hear me. I'm still on. My mic's not muted. Nobody's saying anything. Oh, they said they hear us both. I hear you. You just can't hear. So anyway, thank you so much. We're gonna end this right now. I'm not sure what's happening on Brother Sadhu's side, but we're going to. You can hear us both. Thank you. I'm gonna close with the bowl. How about that? Just kind of close your eyes and receive this.
So upset that I can't hear nothing. Oh my God.
Dr. G. Really? Who's she?
Yeah, that's me.
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 Dr. G. Really? Who's she?
Yeah, that's me.